That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All right, I'm putting myself out there for this video, but I'm okay with it because we're going to be going through and identifying some players that we should be buying low on before the NFL draft. Now, of course, the reason for this is the video we made a couple days ago saying wide receivers we needed to be selling. We were looking at this wide receiver class saying, hell, there are a ton of great options, but at running back, they just don't exist. At running back, you have two guys that we're worried about. You have Breece Hall and you have Kenneth Walker. But there's a big thing happening here. There's a shift in the overall Dynasty community's perception on a handful of running backs, where the overall Dynasty community is assuming that like 5-6 different players are getting replaced in this year's NFL draft. And I am here to tell you that that's just not possible based on the landscape that we have with the prospects currently available. So I decided to do a couple different things. We, of course, went over to Keep Trade Cut, Sleeper, Underdog Fantasy. We got some real data points on how these players are being valued. And also, I just went out after we created our list and asked y'all over there on Locals to confirm what I already thought. And I essentially asked, what are the odds, if you had to put it in a number, the probability that these teams take a running back inside the top 75 draft picks? So inside the top 75 picks, that's essentially you at the minimum go early round 3. I really think there are only 3 running backs that can go in that range. I think Isaiah Spiller could end up being an early 3rd round pick to a team like the Houston Texans. But nonetheless, we asked that and we had some intriguing responses because, like I said, the very most 3 running backs are going inside the top 75. And we asked about the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bills. Not all those teams are going to be on this video. But if you go over and look at some of these responses, I mean, Bills, 100%. I mean, another person, 100% Bills. Another person, 100% Bills. 75% Bills. And that's not it. It's not like everybody's here assuming that the Bills are drafting a team. I mean, you have a lot of people saying 50% Philadelphia Eagles. You have a lot of people saying 25% Miami Dolphins. You have some people saying 50 to 75% Kansas City Chiefs. There are 32 teams in the NFL and 3 solid running backs. So on average, we should assume that there's about a 10% base rate. Now, of course, the teams like the Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles, they will be more likely to draft a running back in this range than other options. But we need to investigate that further. We need to see exactly how likely that is, because maybe we can go out there and purchase a couple of these players at a discount right now. But before we get into it, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive into our first running back. We're going to Miami. Let's go to South Beach. I'm in Tampa right now. We're going to hop in the car. We're going to drive 6 hours south. We're going to go to someone who just traveled in that direction themselves. We're going to go to Chase Edmonds. Now, with Chase Edmonds, you look at Sleeper. He's being drafted as the running back 43, which, of course, is very, very late as a running back 4. And on Underdog, where there are real money fantasy football drafts, where if you want to have fun, if you want to enjoy your life, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Promo code FLOCK. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK to get in some real money drafts with us on a live stream, I mean, wherever you want to get in those drafts, you can be in the public lobby with your friends. They will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our Dynasty research book. You'll get our rookie rankings. You'll get our Dynasty rankings. Just make sure you use promo code FLOCK. But anyway, he's being drafted there as the running back 35. So even redraft players are looking at Chase Edmonds going, hell, yeah, we're not really believing that this is going to be the guy in Miami this upcoming season, where I'm looking at it and saying, I'm guaranteeing Chase Edmonds is that guy in Miami. Now, if we look at the Miami Dolphins, what's funny is a lot of people I asked on Locals, hey, what are the odds they go running back inside the top 75 picks? They, I guess, are just going with their gut reactions. That's how most people value players in Dynasty. We have a couple responses like 30%. Well, I'll tell you this. I think it's closer to a 1 to 2% chance. You know why? The Miami Dolphins don't have a pick inside the top 100. Their first selection in this year's draft is going to come at pick 102. Right now, how you see that Miami Dolphins depth chart, that is the depth chart we are going to have going into the season. Get used to it. prepare for it. And if people don't understand that, hell, maybe you can get Chase Edmonds at 75% of his cost compared to where he will be in August. Now, let me dive in to Chase Edmonds because, of course, I can come out here and say, oh, they're not taking a running back trade for him. No, I have to dive a little bit deeper than that. With Chase Edmonds, a 26-year-old running back, and if we look at his contract this offseason, it's the first indicator. It's the first sign that we have that Chase Edmonds will be the starting running back for the Miami Dolphins. They gave him $12 million. $6 million of that is actually guaranteed. Now, 2018, his rookie season, if we're just going year by year, Chase Edmonds did nothing. I don't know if you heard about this, but there used to be this running back in Arizona named David Johnson. Now, of course, if you are new to Dynasty Fantasy Football, if you have been living under a rock for the past decade, David Johnson back in the day was a pretty good running back. Some may say above average, where there was no way in hell Chase Edmonds was getting on the field. But the small glimpses we have had of Chase Edmonds getting on the field have been fantastic. I mean, that next season, you didn't have David Johnson staying healthy the entire year. Now, of course, this is the year that you actually have Kenyon Drake being traded over, which is 100% something that held Chase Edmonds back. But nonetheless, we had one game where we got to see Chase Edmonds without Kenyon Drake, without David Johnson. David Johnson actually went down at the very beginning of this game. And in that game, boy, you had that upside. Against the Giants, you had 27 carries, 4 targets out of the backfield, 150 total yards, and 3 total touchdowns. Now, of course, you love to see 3 touchdowns in a game. We really want to get excited about it. Go, oh my God, look at the upside. Just imagine what he could be. In reality, we shouldn't be focusing in on the touchdowns. I want to focus in on the workload and what kind of workload he can handle. Because going forward, we are going to see this continued trend for whenever Chase Edmonds had the opportunity to be a starting running back, he excelled. He went out there and got 15 touches guaranteed, usually 15 plus carries and a couple targets to go with it. In 2020, Kenyon Drake was bad. And I will say, it's not a great sign whenever Chase Edmonds can't jump over Kenyon Drake, who's disappointing this season in 2020, and he can't just take the starting job away from him. I agree with you. I will admit that. However, in 2020, we have to understand also that Kenyon Drake was getting paid $8.5 million on the transition tag. This is the season after Kenyon Drake had the fantastic final stretch in 2019. So the Arizona Cardinals, they go and give him a crap ton of money. And when you're paying that running back $8.5 million compared to Chase Edmonds getting paid nothing, it is very, very, very difficult to go out there and pull that running back. I mean, just look at what we saw with Dallas. PFF had Tony Pollard graded out as the best running back last season. Yet, who's continuously getting the touches? Who's the starting running back there? And he's disappointing with them. Ezekiel Elliott, regardless of if he's injured, or regardless of what the excuse is. But we see when those running backs have that contract, they're getting the workload. So I'm willing to give Chase Edmonds the pass with Kenyon Drake playing ahead of him this season. But we got a game where Kenyon Drake missed, which of course just gives us one more glimpse, a small little peek through the window of what Chase Edmonds may be. And in that one game, 25 carries and 3 receptions. Going right back to that workhorse workload. That's what we are looking to see. Now in 2021, of course, they had James Conner. James Conner, pretty damn good running back himself. So we don't really get a massive sample size of what Chase Edmonds could have been, but we do get a game where James Conner doesn't play at the end of the year against Dallas, and you have 18 carries and 6 targets for Chase Edmonds as well. I mean, again, highlighting the fact that he can handle that 3-down workload. Now, one other thing that I need to point out is even when you had these other fantastic running backs in the backfield, even when you had James Conner in Arizona, you still have Chase Edmonds with a very large role in his offense based on the usage that he has as a receiving running back. I mean, in 2020, this is a running back that had 67 targets. In 2021, the number looks like it went down a bit, but not really. He had 53 targets through 12 games. He's almost at 5 targets a game as a running back. That's like Nyheim Hines. The only difference is he has a BMI over 30. We've had the glimpse that he can be a running back getting 25 touches in a single game. So going over to Miami, where there's really no competition for touches, I'm excited about this. Now, if we look at someone like Rahim Moser, who also got signed here, the difference between these two players is staggering in my opinion, because we're pulling up Rahim Moser. This is a 30-year-old running back, so 4 years older than Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds, the prime age for running back production. Rahim Moser, well beyond it. And the funniest thing ever, year in and year out, we were saying it last season as well, is Rahim Mostert's name value. I don't understand why dynasty players, I don't understand why fantasy managers, I don't understand why casual NFL fans think Rahim Mostert is anything at all. Literally, I'm more worried about Myles Gaskin than Rahim Mostert. I mean, this is a running back that, like we said, is 30 years old. He's getting paid $1 million guaranteed. Obviously, $1 million to me, to you, sounds like a lot, but for NFL running backs, it's not. Getting paid $1 million guaranteed. You will not believe this, but Rahim Moser, games with over 20 carries in his NFL career, and he's 30. One. The only reason you know who Rahim Moser is because a playoff stretch back in 2019, because a couple highlight runs, because he's fast. That's it. And if we go over and look at someone like Myles Gaskin, yeah, Gaskin looked pretty good 2 years ago. But the big difference is between Myles Gaskin and Chase Edmonds is A, Chase Edmonds is a better running back, and B, the coaching staff just went out there and gave Chase Edmonds $12 million. They just made that investment into him where we don't know how they perceive Myles Gaskin. I would say if this new coaching staff liked Myles Gaskin, do we think the first thing they would have done when they walked through the doors would be to sign 2 free agent running backs? I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe they sign 1, but not 2. So I'm looking at this saying, hell, Chase Edmonds is going to be the 3-down running back for the Miami Dolphins. They don't have a pick where they can bring in another guy. And on top of this, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle stretching the field. How can you stack the box? You just can't. If you bring a safety down, I know Tua is not the best quarterback in the world, but either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle is getting behind the defense. Very excited about Chase Edmonds for his current price. I mean, literally on Underdog, go use promo code FLOCK. This is a running back being drafted as 35 on Sleeper. I mean, he's running back 43. Now, let's go over to our next guy. We already mentioned him just briefly. Miles Sanders for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is a player that we talked about 2 days ago where I want to be the first person to admit it is 100% possible that the Philadelphia Eagles go out there and draft Breece Hall. It is 100% possible they go out there and they take Kenneth Walker. I am not going to shy away from that. Unlike the Miami Dolphins, who have a total of 0 picks inside the top 100, the Philadelphia Eagles have 4. They have picks 15, 18, 51, and 83. But as we were talking about a couple days ago, with picks 15 and 18, I would be surprised if they go Breece Hall. I think based on what the NFL has seen, based on, I think time and time again, running backs going in the first round, panning to just be not really worth it. To just end up being bust. Instead, I would imagine we get the Philadelphia Eagles going defense and possibly a wide receiver. Now, the one pick I would be worried about, pick 51, Breece Hall is not going to be available, but Kenneth Walker may be. And if Kenneth Walker is there, if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm taking him 100%. I think he would actually be a natural complement alongside Miles Sanders. It would kill Miles Sanders' dynasty value. Don't let me try to spin that in a different light. Also, they could go Isaiah Spiller at pick 83. I think neither Miles Sanders or Isaiah Spiller would be exciting in the slightest in that scenario as well. So I will admit, it could get ugly. But my issue with this is the dynasty community is ranking Miles Sanders as it's already happened. As I said, I don't think they're going RB in round 1. Are you that confident that they can get Kenneth Walker at pick 51? Do we even know if they would like Kenneth Walker at pick 51? Because I'm pulling this up. On Underdog, being drafted as the running back 34. You are consistently getting him in the 11th round. Just last week in a live stream, I took Miles Sanders in the 11th round. According to Keep Trade Cut, Miles Sanders, the 24-year-old running back, is currently being valued as the running back 32. Now, I think this does not have much to do with the on-field play of Miles Sanders. I think this more so has to do with the changing sentiment and the changing discussion around Miles Sanders in the Dynasty community. Because if we look at the past 3 seasons in Philadelphia with what Miles Sanders has done, the fantasy production, yes, it is definitely taken a dip down. I'll be the first person to admit that. If we look at, just the fact that he was the running back 20 on a per game basis his rookie season, jumped up to the running back 15 his second year. Remember, back in startups, Miles Sanders used to be a late round 1 pick in 1 quarterback dynasty startups. He used to be consistently going in the second round of Superflex startup drafts. Okay? Are we on the same page? This is a running back that had all the hype in the world. And that was with him, through the first 2 years of his NFL career, averaging about 12 carries a game. Now, this past season, in 2021, he took a significant step backwards. He went from being the running back 15 on a per game basis to the running back 39. But there's a big but with this. It is overstated how much he fell backwards by those fantasy points. Because what ended up happening is the workload stayed very similar to what it was in 2020. However, what we saw is Miles Sanders have an extremely unlucky season with his touchdown volatility, with his touchdown rate. Miles Sanders averaged 11.5 carries this past year. It was about 12 carries a game, through the first 2 years of his career. So that's pretty much identical. If we look at his targets per game, right under 3 targets a game compared to hovering around 4 targets a game through the first 2 seasons. So yes, he did get involved less as a receiver, which is a red flag, but it makes sense with Jalen Hurts coming in. We know with those quarterbacks that can rush the ball, they are not going to check down to the running back position as often. Look at Alvin Kamara with Taysom Hill versus Drew Brees. We've been through this before. What is different, really the only difference, are the touchdowns. And I will admit 100% there is something to this. With that rushing quarterback in Jalen Hurts, we know that those rushing quarterbacks, they can vulture touchdowns at the goal line. We've seen this consistently, and it's something that you have to account for. And I will agree, back in 2020, back in 2019, Miles Sanders was overrated. If you were drafting him as a top 5 running back in Dynasty, you were doing yourself a disservice, and that was a bad draft pick. But this price point is a different story, especially if we look into how I think the touchdown volatility may swing in the opposite direction this upcoming season. If the Philadelphia Eagles don't draft a running back, there are 32 teams in the NFL, and as we've said, 2 good running backs in this draft class, possibly 3 if you want to include Isaiah Spiller. I think Isaiah Spiller would be one of the bad running backs for Miles Sanders. But with this touchdown volatility, we have seen an example of a highly mobile quarterback going out there and vulturing all the rushing touchdowns in his offense. And then the very next season, it's swinging in the opposite direction. Let's go right back to Arizona, where in 2020, we saw Kyla Murray have 11 rushing touchdowns. This past season, in 2021, speaking of how volatile these touchdowns are, that number dropped down to 5. And with that number dropping down, James Conner exploded. We assumed that Kyla Murray was going to be vulturing pretty much every touchdown at the goal line, that you didn't really care too much about the first and second down running back in Arizona. We were wrong. James Conner, 18 total touchdowns in 2021. Now, I'm not bringing this up to say, oh, Miles Sanders, he's scoring 18 touchdowns this year. Miles Sanders, he's scoring 15 touchdowns. No, I'm not saying that in the slightest. What I am saying is it's highly possible, as we just saw it last year, for these rushing quarterbacks to possibly not rack up double-digit rushing touchdowns in a year, and instead some of that go back over to the running back in that offense. And if you get Miles Sanders back up to about 8 touchdowns next year, based on the volume he has in this offense, that's highly probable. That's very likely. And if that does happen, Miles Sanders goes right back to being a mid-running back 2. And if we can currently draft him as a running back 3 in fantasy, with really the only concern of mine being Kenneth Walker in the second round, sign me up. I think it's a good investment. And now our next running back, I understand everybody, literally, if I go over to that locals post and just pull up the probabilities that people are saying this team drafts a running back in the top 75 picks, we have 100%, 100%, 100%, 75%, 75%, 90%. Oh my gosh. Like people are saying it's essentially guaranteed the Buffalo Bills go and take a running back inside the top 75 picks. And I will admit, their running backs are bad. They have one of the worst group of running backs in the NFL. And if we're playing Madden, if we're all NFL general managers and we're able to just go through and plug and pull and just make these draft picks ourselves, we're sending Breece Hall to Buffalo at pick 25. We're telling Breece Hall, hey man, you need that winter jacket. You're going north. But that's not the world we're living in. We know that every single season, things happen that we don't expect. You have Jonathan Taylor going to Indianapolis when everybody thought Marlon Mack was their guy. You have Javonte Williams going to Denver when nobody expected Denver to even need a running back. And they traded up to get him. Just because something seems like it's a certainty before the draft doesn't mean it actually is. Now, of course, if we were in the 2017 draft class, if we were 2018 as well, 2020, if we were in one of those classes where you have 5 to 6 quality running backs on the board, hell, I'm taking Devin Singletary, throwing him in the trash before we even get started. But when he only has to dodge 2 bullets, I'm a lot more interested. And this team has picked 25, 57, and 89 in the top 3 rounds. Now, I'll tell you right now, yes, I think they could go Breece Hall, pick 25 if they wanted to. I think that the Buffalo Bills are probably pretty smart and not willing to draft a running back in the first round. Pick 57, I don't think they're going to have Kenneth Walker there. Pick 89, I am unsure if Isaiah Spiller is going to be there as well. So even though they may want a running back, if they pass on Hall at pick 25, I am unsure if they're going to be able to get one. And if we look at Devin Singletary, 100%, he is being priced as if he's already been replaced. Keep Trade Cut has him as the running back 39. Not only do they have him as the running back 39, but if you look at his value graph, I mean, he's plummeted. He's gone down 8 spots in the running back rankings over the past, I don't know these updates. I mean, some other guys that we've previously mentioned, Chase Edmonds went down 22 spots. How far has Miles Sanders plummeted these? Miles Sanders went down 4 spots. I mean, you're seeing these running backs fall because everybody thinks they're getting replaced. And with Devin Singletary on Underdog Fantasy, he's being drafted as the running back 33. So he's going higher on Underdog with those real money drafts with the sharp drafters that are over 18 years old. And he's 24 years old. Now, it's hard to look at the final season numbers for Devin Singletary because we know that Buffalo, I mean, they were going Zach Moss at the beginning of the year, but we have to remember this team switched. This team realized, hell, Zach Moss is a bum. We are moving on from Zach Moss. Devin Singletary is our guy. And how do we figure out when that happened? Well, what we should probably do is go to the first game that Zach Moss was a healthy scratch. The first game Zach Moss was a healthy and active. That was against the New Orleans Saints. And starting with that game, Devin Singletary played 9 games afterwards. And in those 9 games, you have Devin Singletary averaging 13.5 carries a game, over 3 targets a game, and almost 80 yards a game. This is why you need running backs in elite NFL offenses. Because when you're going up against the Bills and they have just a horrendous running back core, but quite possibly the best quarterback in the NFL, you can't stack the box. You're probably going to have someone spy on Josh Allen as well because we know he's mobile. So that's why you get this elite efficiency for someone like Devin Singletary. And on top of this, Singletary is a small running back. Devin Singletary, you would assume also with Josh Allen being able to vulture touchdowns at the goal line, not much touchdown upside. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if he has a small percentage of the touchdowns in Buffalo. There will be so many points scored in Buffalo, so many trips to the red zone, that he has a touchdown upside regardless. In those 9 games, Devin Singletary scored 9 total touchdowns. It's completely possible we're looking back at this video in a week and we're going, Mason, you idiot. Mason, how did you not see Devin Singletary getting replaced by Breece Hall at pick 25? It's possible. It's in the range of outcomes. But I'm telling you right now, to assume that these running backs are getting replaced in this year's draft in particular, when this running back prospect room is just so damn bad. I think maybe it's a little bit foolish. But of course, if you enjoyed this video, please go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. If you have not done so already, go check out Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you with the video tomorrow.